If you tuned in tonight actually believing the Indiana Fever were going to walk out with a victory against the New York Liberty, then honestly good on you for keeping the faith. But at no point tonight did the reality on the court suggest anything other than a complete and utter systematic dismantling of a team that looks completely lost right now. The Liberty were absolutely freezing cold from three-point range, shooting something like 2 for 17 from beyond the arc, and yet they still completely controlled the narrative of this game. If New York had been even moderately average from the three-point line, the Fever would have lost this game by 25 points easily. This was a bloodbath hiding behind a deceptively manageable box score, until the fourth quarter exposed the brutal truth of the current Indiana Fever dysfunction. Let us dig deeper into exactly what happened when they came out of the locker room at halftime, because this is where the incompetence truly rears its ugly head. The Liberty started aggressively pressing the Fever, stepping up the defensive intensity, and head coach Stephanie White made absolutely zero adjustments to counter it. Nothing at all. She just stood there and watched as the Liberty turned up the heat and completely took the game over, while the Fever offense choked under the pressure. And please do not even start with the excuses about the referees and the foul disparity, because we have to come to grips with a cold, hard, factual statement about how this league operates. You cannot use the officiating as a crutch anymore, because we all know the unspoken rule of professional basketball. The referees are always going to give the calls to the Las Vegas Aces and the New York Liberty because they have the championship rings. We see the exact same psychological phenomenon in the National Football League, where veteran quarterbacks with Super Bowl rings get roughing the passer calls if a defender just breathes on them too hard, while rookies get absolutely battered with no flag in sight. So complain about the fouls all you want, but the Liberty turned on the heat in the fourth quarter, and it was completely over, dropping 29 points in the final frame, while the Indiana Fever miraculously conjured up a pathetic 18 points. Breanna Stewart absolutely took this game over and put the entire Liberty franchise on her back. And if you are sitting there thinking that the Fever almost had a chance, you have to stop and ask yourself what the hell this game would have looked like if Sabrina Ionescu had actually played tonight. Sabrina was entirely out of the lineup. If she was out there dropping her usual 24 points on the Fever defense tonight, the blowout would have been historically humiliating. Instead, Breanna Stewart dropped 30 points and Satu Sabali chipped in 13 points to just completely crush any fleeting hope Indiana had. Let us be completely honest with ourselves for a second, because if the bench players had not showed up in the miraculous manner that they did in the first half, shooting completely out of their minds, the Fever would have been blown off the floor before the halftime buzzer even sounded. But you knew that unsustainable production was not going to last, and the structural flaws of this team were bound to be exposed. I actually had Caitlin Clark on triple-double watch at one point tonight, watching her orchestrate whatever broken offense she could salvage. Literally 10 seconds after I mentioned she was closing in on a triple-double, she gets called for a foul, and they yanked her right out of the game. I immediately said, never mind, we are officially off triple-double watch, because Stephanie White decided it was time to pull the plug. And now we have to talk about the absolute black hole on the offensive end of the floor known as Kelsey Mitchell. Watching her operate right now is watching where all basketballs go to die. It is just dribble, 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 and by God you know she is going to force up that contested shot, regardless of whether 3 defenders are suffocating her. If 3 defenders are draped all over her, Kelsey Mitchell is still putting up that damn shot and refusing to pass the ball out to an open teammate. She took I do not even know how many shots that she had absolutely no business taking, and finished with an incredibly inefficient 13 points on 6 of 15 shooting, making you seriously question what that $6.4 million contract extension over the life of her deal was actually paying for. Meanwhile, we have front office drama spilling out into the public eye, proving that the culture inside this organization is rotting from the inside out. Reporter Scott Agnes has been completely vindicated multiple times tonight after taking relentless heat from the organization. Agnes recently reported that Aaliyah Boston was dealing with a leg injury, and the Fever management absolutely hated that the truth got leaked to the public, telling him to essentially get out of their building. Well, guess what, folks? Aaliyah Boston clearly has a leg injury, and the team trying to suppress the truth instead of protecting their franchise center tells you everything you need to know about the current state of this management group. Which brings us to the most controversial and infuriating aspect of this entire disaster of a season: the strategic management of Caitlin Clark. Let us start right here with the undeniable facts. We had people in the arena tonight observing the sidelines and reporting that Caitlin Clark was going completely ignored for massive stretches of the game. Someone at the game pointed out that she had not even touched the ball in I do not know how long, while her teammates played horrific isolation basketball. And then what happens? Caitlin Clark gets subbed out of the game around the 4 or 5 minute mark, just yanked right off the court to go ride the pine while the game slips away. It looks exactly like strategic management from the front office dictating her minutes and severely capping her impact on the game. And the Fever front office absolutely does not want anyone talking about it. They want reporters like Scott Agnes silenced so they can continue operating in the shadows without any accountability. Under coach Stephanie White, we have officially watched the Indiana Fever regress and become the new Connecticut Sun. They try to drag opposing teams down into the mud and muck up the pace of the game into this ugly, unwatchable slop. Enjoy losing your fan base with this strategy, because I can guarantee you that the millions of new fans who tuned into this league did not come to watch this garbage brand of basketball. That is a factual statement that the front office refuses to acknowledge. Caitlin Clark is out there trying to make magic happen, hitting a nice little runner and a beautiful pull-up floater. But I really wish she would add 2 specific things to her arsenal right now to survive this toxic environment. She needs to drive to the basket more aggressively, and she absolutely must shoot more mid-range 2-pointers. Until she can reliably shoot herself out of these heavily guarded 3-point situations, she is going to be at the mercy of this terrible offensive scheme. She finished tonight with 10.7 rebounds and 9 assists, shooting 4 of 14 from the field and 2 of 6 from deep. And yes, the referees are going to be terrible in every single game, we already know that. But do you remember the second half of the 2024 season? We had the exact same big 3 plus Lexi Hull and former coach Christy Sides did not let the lack of whistles affect the team. Christy Sides watched her players get beaten to a pulp, and instead of forcing an ugly brand of basketball, she simply said, "Let us go out and win ball games, and let our superstar cook." But no, we are not going to do that here under this new regime. They want you to look away and pretend nothing is wrong. Nothing to see here, please move along. And while the actual product on the court is burning to the ground, you have these completely fabricated television ratings floating around the internet claiming this team is drawing 10 million viewers, which is absolute fake news nonsense. The official ratings have not even been released yet, and considering this game was locked away on Amazon Prime, I will be absolutely shocked if it even pulled in 1.5 million viewers. Everything is fine though, right? The house is not on fire at all according to the front office. But the reality is this team is currently sitting at an abysmal 5-5 through their first 10 games. The season is already a quarter of the way over, and they are stuck playing 500 basketball with a generational talent being systematically mismanaged. The fans are not stupid, and they can see exactly what is happening to the chemistry of this roster. This is exactly why the rumors are swirling that Caitlin Clark has reached her breaking point and is making a desperate request to the front office to step in and fix this catastrophic mess. When your superstar point guard is being benched in the fourth quarter while her teammates freeze her out of the offense, something has to give. When your head coach refuses to make basic halftime adjustments against a championship-caliber team, you are begging for a mutiny. The Indiana Fever are at a crossroads right now, and if the front office does not wake up and realize they are wasting the most valuable asset in the history of the sport, they are going to permanently damage the foundation of this franchise. You cannot keep treating your superstar like a rotational piece while rewarding selfish basketball and expect to build a championship culture. The clock is officially ticking on the Indiana Fever, and if they do not answer Caitlin Clark's desperate call for help, we might be witnessing the most tragic collapse of a promising young dynasty before it ever even gets off the ground. Think about what is actually at stake here for the entire organization moving forward. You do not just stumble into a player who brings millions of eyes to the screen and reshapes the entire economic landscape of women's basketball. When a player of that magnitude is forced to sit on the bench and watch as the offense degenerates into a selfish isolation nightmare, the entire basketball world takes notice. This desperate request to the front office is not about ego, and it is certainly not about demanding special treatment. It is about demanding a basic standard of professional competency from the people being paid to build a winning roster. The front office needs to stop protecting their fragile egos, stop silencing the reporters who are telling the truth, and start doing whatever it takes to build a system that actually empowers their superstar. They have to confront the uncomfortable reality that their current system is completely broken. The fans are sounding the alarm because they see the exact same dysfunction staring them in the face every single time the Fever step onto the hardwood. Every single missed rotation, every single ignored pass, and every single time Caitlin Clark is sent to the bench early is another crack in the foundation. If management continues to bury their heads in the sand and pretend that a 5-5 record is acceptable progress, they are going to face a reckoning from a fan base that refuses to accept mediocrity. Because if they fail to answer this wake-up call, the damage will be entirely on their hands, and the fans will never forgive them for throwing away the future.